Whiskey can be a wild west of both flavors and proof. But what if I told you there's a category dedicated to exactly this, and it's all about trust? Welcome to tonight's battle of the bottled and bond blind. We're talking tradition, quality, and a little bit of drama. This story's got tax stabs, government regulations, and whiskey you can count on. But what does bottled and bond even mean? Stick around to find out. It's the Simple Whiskey Show.
Simple whiskey, Cyncere. Here to keep it 100. What's the ABV? Keep it simple. Simple whiskey. Be sweeter.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Simple Whiskey Show. I'm Cyncere, and tonight we're diving into 4 bottled and bond bottles to see which one pulls out the win. But before we dive into the blind, let's talk bottled and bond. Back in 1897, the US government decided whiskey needed some rules. Why is that, you might ask? Because shady distilleries were blending questionable stuff like tobacco juice and prune wine into barrels. No joke. The Bottled and Bond Act of 1897 became the first consumer protection law in the US, even before the FDA. So what makes a whiskey bottled and bond? Distilling. It must be distilled at one distillery in one distilling season. Age. It must be aged for at least 4 years in a federally bonded warehouse. Proof, it has to be bottled at exactly 100 proof. And here's the kicker. It's overseen by Uncle Sam, so you know what's inside is the real deal. Now that's a stamp of approval worth celebrating. Let's meet tonight's contenders. First up, Ben Holladay Bottled and Bond. A 6-year-old bourbon that's all about soft red wheat replacing rye. Think of it as a smoother, creamier sip born out of Missouri. Second on deck tonight, one of the first bonded bottles I've ever tried. Old Granddad Bottled and Bond. This one is bold, spicy, and full of character. It's a classic bourbon made to honor Mr. Basil Hayden himself. Then there's the drama queen of the night, Early Times Bottled and Bond. This bottle has loyal fans debating whether the new blue top bottles are as good as the old black top. Caramel spice and a hint of citrus. It's a pour with a story. Finally, 1792 Bottled and Bond, Kentucky boldness in the glass. Known for its rich chocolate, baking spice, and dark fruit notes. It's a powerhouse. As always, we'll be judging each pour on nose, palate, finish. And at the end, only one 100 proof perfectionist will prevail. Say that 5 times fast. Now, before we get started, please take a second, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop your predictions for the winner down in the comments below. Now that we've gotten through the whiskey nerd talk, let's get to sipping. As always, I'm excited to get started on a blind tasting. Curious to see if the 100 proof sets off the burn alarm this evening, since this is the first sip of the night. So let's start with the nose. Glass A. All right, right off the bat, I get like a warm caramel note, a little bit of honey, some sort of a nuttier note as well, and then like an orange or a citrusy note. Let's go in for a sip. All right, first sip of the night. Not quite as overpowering as what I usually get, but the vanilla note that I get on this is a little bit overpowered by like a nuttier note. But it's really good. I do enjoy this, whatever it is. Nuts and vanilla. Let's go into B and see what we get on B. Okay, a little bit spicier on the nose. I don't know why I'm getting like a super rye note on this one. And then like a cherry or a cherry candy note also coming through. Let's give it a sip. Okay, so that's pretty bold, a little bit spicy. That rye, more like a rye spice note that I got on the nose, shines through even more so on the palate. I do get a little bit of cinnamon on this. A little bit of like a richer caramel note, not quite as sweet as Glass A in terms of the caramel note, and then a little bit of that orange zest maybe coming through on the back end of this one. It's a really warm finish, a little bit tingly. And again, I'm warmed up from Glass A, but I still feel like I get more heat on Glass B, even though all of them are 100 proof. I know that no one particular one is more proofy than the other, but when you get into the complexity of the blends that some of these different whiskeys use, that's where you'll end up getting some of those differentiators, like the spicier note and that cinnamony note that I get more so on this one. Let's see what we get on C. Okay, rich and creamy on the nose. Almost a little bit of a milk chocolatey note comes through on the back end of it. Something sweet that I can't put my finger on, but I almost get that grainy note, like a sweeter, like almost like a sweeter, like a sweeter wheated, I don't know, sweeter wheated note. Got a dirty glass. Let's see what we get on the palate. So up front, first of all, mouthfeel on this one, pretty creamy, medium viscosity on it. I get a little bit of that sweeter note that was coming through. It's almost like a sweet corn note. The vanilla does poke through a little bit more on this one, and I think that that's part of that sweeter note that I get. So like a sweet corn, a little bit of vanilla, and then just like I described on the nose, almost a milk chocolate note I get on this one on the back end as well. This right here is a smooth sipper. I really like it. Let's dive into D. Oh, okay, so this is the dark side. A little more dark than the rest of them that we had. Get like an oak, dark chocolate note on the nose, baking spices as well. A little bit of black cherry on the finish or on the back end of that. Let's give it a sip. Okay, definitely the boldest of the four, and definitely the boldest of the four. And if I didn't know they were all 100 proof, I would say this was at least 115. This drink's very spicy, but in a good way. The note that comes through on the back end of this is so much cherry cola that I can't recall any of these in terms of when I've had them in the past, ever remembering a cherry cola note. Not to mention almost like a dark chocolate bitterness. The dark chocolate bitterness is up front, but as it goes through the mid palate and on the finish, that's where I get like that cherry cola note that really shines through on this one. So we got to eliminate a couple of them. First one to go out has got to be glass B. And glass B was good. It just had a super spicy note to it that for some odd reason it tingled more so than taste. Tingle over taste. Let's eliminate one more. My next one gotta be C. So B and C are out. C was also another one that came across quite a bit spicy, but it did have a note on it that was sweeter that I did like. But when I'm trying to narrow this thing out and pick a winner, I gotta go with my gut instinct first instead of pondering on them. So let's take one more gander at A and D and see what we get. Glass A. See, A is just so much more smooth than either of these two that I just eliminated. And that vanilla and that butterscotchy note that just really shines through. It really rings home every time I take a sip of A. And I think D was the one I got that cherry cola note on. So let's see if it's just as intriguing this go around. If not, A might just be the hands down winner. But I gotta give you a little bit of suspense. Let's see what D rocks with. So these are like night and day different. Like for me, this one feels like it's at least 110, 115 proof. This one is a very smooth 100 proof sipper. So when it comes to trying to pick a winner of the two, they're pulling at my heartstrings from two different ends. It's very tough to do, but I think I got a winner. Okay, so first out was B. Oh, wow. Huh. Now that is interesting because Old Granddad Bottled and Bond was one of the first Bottled and Bonds I'd ever had. And I remember I've bought multiple bottles of these in the past. And at some point I used it as a mixer. Other nights I would just drink it neat. And even when I first got started out, I remember putting ice on this one just to kind of dull it down a little bit. But tonight, I mean, we got 4 decent pours up here, so it's not like this is bummy whiskeys going up against it, but I am surprised for this one to come in last. I picked this as top 2 if I had to guess coming into it. I won't spoil what I thought was going to win until I see if I'm right. And then, as always, I won't tell you either way because why am I going to admit that I'm wrong? I don't do that. C was the second one out. Oh, man. Ben Holladay Bottled and Bond. This was also one of those ones that I used to brag on. Obviously, the soft red wheat is my favorite. I do have a soft red wheat Rick House that I still have to pick up from my buddy that got it for me up at S&W Liquor in DC. But I'm extremely surprised. This was one that I thought would do better than this. And honestly, this was the one I figured would have won. I'm going to go ahead and admit that I'm wrong. The Ben Holladay lineup doesn't seem to miss, but tonight, this one just had a little bit more of a punch to it that just wasn't sitting as clean as the other two. So the last one that's not going to win tonight, D. So D, 1792, bottled and bond. I don't know what it was about this one. This one came ready to play. Definitely was drinking higher than the 100 proof that it is. And again, usually that's more in just a pure raw spice capacity. And this is a store pick, so I'm not sure what that does in terms of how it might play into it. But either way, it's still the bottled and bond. It did hit a little bit spicier on the palate. And usually I like that higher proof feel to it whenever I'm going for a whiskey, but something about this one tonight, which obviously now is my other daily sipper, Old Early Times, has that caramel note that just drinks really smooth. Super tough blind tonight. Surprised, because again, I use this as a more of an everyday pour, because I mean, again, it's $20 for a full 1 liter bottle. So if you're a fan of bold, easy sippers, a little bit of a caramel note coming through, then this is your guy. What are your favorite bottled and bond bourbons, and have you had any of the 4 up here tonight? Leave me a comment down below and let me know just exactly what you think would have won had you been faced with these 4, based off of what you currently know about. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Check out my other blinds, including the low proof banger blind I recently did. And remember, every bottle has a story. Tonight, we celebrated a legacy that started over 125 years ago. Here's the full glasses, great stories, and keeping it simple. Cheers.